So we'll start with some introductions. I'm Kara. I am Nextiny's Director of Client Services. Nextiny is the agency that hosts the Sarasota HubSpot user group, and I have been using HubSpot for about 7 years now. I am a dog mom and a plant mom and a nature lover all around. And for the purposes of today's conversation, I am a Facebook ads expert.
Awesome. Yep, I'm Bryan Gorman. I'm Nextiny's client strategist. I've been here for 5 years. Worked a lot on like the content SEO side of things, and within the last couple of years, I've really taken the initiative to do a lot more on the Google ad side of things. So I've become kind of the Google ad expert here at Nextiny. I graduated from USF. Go Bulls! I also am a adult league hockey player. I grew up in Michigan, so hockey was a common sport up there in the north. And then also I'm a musician, so singer songwriter, like to play music, play guitar. So yeah, that's that.
Awesome. Let's get into it then. All right. So today we're going to be talking about, of course, how to implement an inbound ad strategy. We're going to be talking about the different ad platforms. Again, for today's purposes, we're just going to be getting into Google ads and Facebook ads. We're not going to talk about LinkedIn ads too much. If you have any questions about that, feel free to throw it in chat. And if we have any resources or recommendations we can throw your way, we'll get into that. We're going to talk about some of those objectives around those different ad types and platforms. We're going to talk about setting up your ads for success. We're going to, of course, talk about some of that technical ad setup and how some of that can integrate with HubSpot, and then measuring the success of your campaigns in HubSpot. Okay, so again, to get started, how to implement an inbound marketing ad strategy. This is kind of our methodology for how we view inbound ads and how you can incorporate that paid ad side of things into your existing inbound marketing strategy. So again, inbound marketing is all about driving the right traffic to your site, making sure that you're finding ways to convert that traffic into leads as part of your database as much as possible, nurturing those leads in a marketing and sales capacity, and then of course, if possible, figuring out of those leads generated as part of that inbound effort, which of those became customers. So you really have that full picture of your customer journey and what pieces of your marketing are working for you or not working for you. So because of that, inbound usually takes a long time. If we're talking about that traffic side of things, creating organic content, maybe redoing your website, doing some on-site and local SEO, all those different activities that can take time. It's something that you may do today that's not really going to pay off for you for 12 months to 18 months really to start to see some strides. And even after that, you have to continue to consistently make progress, put some effort in to be able to see the results from that. So most companies, if they're trying to invest in their marketing and they want to see results today, they don't have that long to wait. So when it comes to applying an ad strategy into your inbound strategy, we see it really as a supplement. So again, if you're trying to supplement those efforts, get some quick wins or some results today, then on the traffic side, of course, you can supplement by running some Google search ads, for those topics and keywords that are important for your business, are things that your ideal customer is searching for, but they're not things that you're ranking for organically today. That's when those Google search ads are a really great supplement into your existing inbound marketing strategy. And then on the nurturing side of things, because nurturing and staying in touch with those leads or site visitors that you've already gathered is a really important part of inbound as well. Then you can nurture your existing database, your existing network with some Facebook retargeting ads or some Google display ads. So those are really our main recommendations when it comes to viewing those ads as a supplement to your inbound marketing strategy. All righty. So now on the platforms and objectives, Bryan, I'll let you take it away there.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think just like anything when it comes to like inbound marketing or digital marketing in general, or just marketing in general, is really understanding like what is the goal, what is the objective, what you're doing. We kind of see that pitfall with a lot of people who will come in and just say like, I want to run Google ads, I want to run Facebook ads. And I think without really understanding, just thinking because that's something people are doing, that they need to do it themselves, without first taking that step back and understanding like, well, what is the goal that I'm looking to achieve with it? Because that'll really drive what platform you're using, how you're going to use it, the way that you're going to target specific audiences. And so I think really considering what your paid advertising goals are, whether it's just, generating leads from the website, like wanting them to download a form, wanting them to go through some like experience, and I'm sure you're already thinking about this in your inbound strategy, right? So it does kind of tie together. But then also maybe it's just I just want to get my brand in front of people. Like we've had clients who are like, I did my audience can be anyone, and it's just anyone in this specific area, location. And I just want to make sure that if they're, on a news website or if they're on my website and then go elsewhere, that they're getting hit constantly with my with our brand and with our image graphic assets. Like I just want to make sure that we're staying in front of them so that they know we still exist and maybe can, either come to their physical locations or come back to their website and do some form of action. So really just understanding like what you want to accomplish with your ads will help you kind of decide what platform you use. And then from there, like having that kind of that general understanding of what these ad platforms, how they best serve you and best serve what your objectives are. So for instance, like if you're looking to do Google ads, I'm sure you're someone who's doing SEO already, like trying to think about how am I generating traffic from Google. So understanding, how does my audience use Google currently? How are they getting, how are people getting to your website from Google? Like what search terms are they using? Even from the competitive landscape and understanding how are your competitors generating leads from Google? Really understanding if that is the best case scenario, if that is the right platform for you to use to attract that audience to accomplish those goals. And then the same thing on like the Facebook side, is Instagram and Facebook a platform where your audience lives and is and you can engage with them, even from a retargeting standpoint. It may not even make sense to run Facebook ads as a nurturing platform if your audience doesn't exist there, right? Like you just having some of those kind of like common sense thoughts and questions before really spending those ad dollars, just making sure that you fully understand like what you're getting yourself into with each of those platforms. And then once you understand that, like choosing the platforms that work best for you. So if you're like, I know for a fact that people are going to Google and searching for specific search terms to get to my website, I'm going to run some Google search campaigns. And I also know my audience is on Instagram and on Facebook, and I want to retarget that audience. Those may be the two platforms you decide to go with. And then you can start to get creative with like, well, how do I want to target this audience? Like, where do they live? Am I looking for a new audience based on search intent? Am I looking for an audience that maybe already knows who I am, has been to my website, and I want to retarget them with some display ads? So you kind of have those different options. And I think really having that full thought about like what it is you're looking to accomplish with ads will allow you to get started on the right foot with the right platform to accomplish those goals.
Awesome. Yeah. The one thing I would add here too that it probably makes sense to touch on in this slide as well is of course the budget side of things, right? Like you can have the greatest plans in the world, but then depending on what your budget is, you kind of have to scale down and allocate responsibly based on that. I would say the biggest paid ad myth that we hear is companies coming in and thinking that they need to spend five to $10,000 a month to really even be a player in that paid ad game. I would say for some industries, depending on competition, a couple $1,000s a month may be more beneficial as far as really being able to get traction from those ads. But we like to tell our clients, start small and learn from it. Again, especially when you're doing paid ads as part of an inbound strategy, you're using a platform like HubSpot where you have not only the ad platform data itself, but then you've got the HubSpot data as well to layer on top of that. You can start small. You can start with $500 a month, $1,000 a month, being realistic that, again, if you're doing something like that, you should probably choose one platform to focus on in the beginning, one campaign to focus on in the beginning, because you don't want to spread your dollars too thin. But then from there, you can learn about it and you can learn like what's working, what's not working. Should I send people to a different page? Should I make these other optimizations? But again, start small and do something that you feel like is going to be a marker of success and then learn from the data and go from there.
Yeah, great point.
Awesome. All right. So getting your ads set up for success. Again, these are just the things, just like if you were launching an inbound campaign that was going to be either driving organic traffic to the site to then convert into leads or nurturing leads through an email marketing campaign. It's the same kind of things that you want to be thinking about when you're preparing for your ads. So again, do you have a clear conversion to send your ads to either on a website page or a landing page that has a clear call to action? So again, a contact us page, a page where they can maybe sign up for a webinar, download a guide, different things like that. The clearer the path and conversion you can give people, especially when you're paying for that traffic, the better. You can, again, opt for sending traffic to your homepage or maybe to a service page and see how that works. I would say the biggest thing we would recommend for that is make sure that those pages are really well optimized for conversion. So if you're going to go a little bit more generic with the pages you want to send people to, which sometimes can be a valid objective depending on how early in the awareness stage some of these people visiting from your ads may be. Just make sure that they are then very clear once they get there, once they read some of that copy and learn more about what you guys do, that they have that clear call to action that stands out to them so that they know, hey, after I absorb this information, take this content in, this is what they're hoping for me to do to take that next step and become a lead. I would also say, especially in strategies like that, it's better to generate some sort of lead, get some sort of conversion than not. So even if it's optimizing for subscription based conversions where you're getting people to just sign up for a newsletter or something like that, there's still a lot of nurturing and work that would need to be done by your team once you capture that type of lead. But again, when you're paying to play, the more of your traffic that you can convert into leads, the better, because then you're getting some sort of proof of ROI, proof of traction from those campaigns rather than just getting a bunch of impressions and clicks and some traffics and really not knowing what that traffic came out of.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um, yeah, go ahead.
I'll say, yeah, to add to that too, we worked with clients who, I mean, when we brought this up as far as like, what is that clear conversion, whether it's a contact us, a download form, oftentimes people also say like, well, it's a phone number too, right? So like also being able to, which on the digital side can be, in the past, it's hard to always prove the attribution of that. People who come from an ad and call, like we use an integration called CallRail that integrates well with HubSpot, that allows us to track that behavior. So if somebody's coming from an ad, picks up the phone and calls, that creates a lead in HubSpot that is allowing us to also be able to understand that clear conversion and sends data back to the ad platforms to optimize for those things. So again, like if you're someone who's like, listen, nobody's on my website filling out forms or downloading guides, like there are other options to also prove the attribution on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Brian.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. So then moving on to, of course, once you've got your conversion established, making sure that you have that clear marketing process for lead follow-up. So again, depending on the type of leads you're generating, whether it's something as top of the funnel as generating subscribers or getting people to download content offers, or closer towards that bottom of the funnel where they're filling out assessment forms, maybe with the intention of meeting with your team or having some sort of visit or demo with your team, you're going to want to make sure that there's some sort of clear follow-up process to either nurture those top of the funnel leads closer towards that sales ready conversion eventually, or making sure that you do have that clear process established with your sales team so that once those leads are coming in with the intent to have those one-to-one conversations, the team is prepared and geared up to get in contact with those leads and make the most out of those conversations, because that's the other side of it. You want to make sure that your strategy isn't too siloed into just a marketing strategy, because then if you're going through that process of not only investing time to set up these campaigns, to get your website prepared for these conversions, but then you're also spending money to generate those leads. You're really going to want to make sure that those marketing and sales teams are aligned and prepared to follow up with those leads as they're generated. And then, of course, as marketers, we have to be prepared for that feedback from the sales team too, right? As they have those initial conversations, maybe they find out that although those people had the intent to have the demo, maybe they were still a little bit earlier on in their process. Just keeping that conversation open and being prepared for the feedback, just to make sure that if there's anything you can do to optimize the campaign to get better quality leads, that's a factor. Or if there's just more marketing activities that would need to occur before those one-to-one conversations, then that's the other side of it too. And just being open and prepared for that feedback, because it happens for every account. There's really never a time that there's not some sort of feedback, and that's okay as long as it gets us all towards where we eventually want to be.
Yeah, and to add to that too, I think, you're spending money, right? Like you're spending money on advertising, and there's, we've had countless accounts that we've acquired where they were running paid advertising, on Google and in Facebook, and a lot of times, like some of this preparation wasn't created. It was they, just sending ads to the homepage or like, and we found you're spending so much money and not getting a lot of return on it by making some of these small changes. All of a sudden, the money that you're investing is actually coming back to you in the form of generating real leads and being able to keep them engaged and make sure that they get through your funnel the right way.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Awesome. So on to kind of like the technical setup, right? So you've kind of thought about what platform you want to use. You've thought about understanding like how those platforms can work to your advantage, preparing your website and getting ready for spending ad dollars. Now just making sure that you're set up on the technical side so that you're be able to measure the success, track success, but also feeding that data back to those different platforms so that they can continue to optimize the ads or yeah your ad campaigns. So the first things first, especially as a HubSpot user, making sure that you connect those ad accounts to HubSpot. I think the biggest value in with running paid advertising and using HubSpot is it kind of it allowed us, it gave us transparency into what's actually happening from the initial impression, the click, all the way through to actual contacts and people in our CRM. And so being able to track that all the way through from the dollar spent to the contacts and leads being generated is so valuable, and something that was always an issue with people running Google ads in the past. Is that yeah, it's great when a conversion event happens, but being able to actually tie that to real contacts and even down to customers that activity that's happening on your deal pipeline is really, really valuable, and something to just make sure that if you're running those ads, take advantage of that integration you have with HubSpot. And then on the flip end of it is making sure that you actually have the code set up on your site, right? So we talked a lot about like retargeting. We talked a lot about making sure that you're tracking conversions. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can set it up manually on your site if your site is hosted in HubSpot, just by adding that to the site code. Usually that's just on the back end, like where you put your Google Analytics code, setting up your Google Ads site code and your Facebook pixel codes. And then also setting up the conversion tags on the thank you page conversions if it's schedule consultation or contact us or even a download, having those conversion tags set up on the thank you to be able to track that all the way through the conversion and send that data back. And then something that has recently been introduced, which is really an amazing feature for anybody who's running Google or Facebook ads, is the HubSpot events. So now you can actually send real like CRM data back to Google in the form of if somebody becomes a lead in your database by filling out a form, if they take that further step and actually like either purchase, become a customer, and are marked in your system as a lifecycle stage customer, you can send that data back with the conversion value, so with actual money attached, back to those platforms, and which works great for platforms like Google that where smart bidding is important, right? Like they have the maximized conversions, they also have maximized conversion value. Um, Being able to send that data back to Google and allowing them to kind of use their technology, their algorithm to optimize your campaigns is really an invaluable tool as HubSpot users, because if you're using HubSpot the right way and you have a process to turn visitors into leads, mark them as leads in life as a lifecycle stage inside HubSpot, mark them as customers once they become customers, and that data is getting sent back to Google to optimize those campaigns for them. That's invaluable and really a helpful tool, and also can take away a lot of that technical setup that we previously talked about of having to manually go in and set up conversion tags. You can rely on a lot of those HubSpot events for a lot of the conversion tracking that you have set up. So we can talk more about that, but I think that's something that if you guys are running paid ads with HubSpot, to definitely look into further.
The one last thing I want to kind of put on the value side of running paid ads with HubSpot and connecting these accounts to HubSpot specifically is the fact that, talking about what Bryan was mentioning of not only seeing the conversion metrics come through on the ad platform, but also see the leads generated on the HubSpot side. There's also data that you can learn from there. So, for example, if you have a specific page that you've chosen to send your contacts to as part of these campaigns, and that page has a form where they have the ability to convert, you may assume if you didn't have the HubSpot integration that those conversions are specifically coming from that page. But ultimately, what you can do is in HubSpot is see those leads being generated by your campaigns and then actually go and analyze those conversions that they're taking and figure out, hey, are the leads that I'm generating going to this page and converting on this page? Or are they going to explore other pages on my site and actually finding a conversion somewhere else? And is there something we can learn from that at scale where we're commonly seeing people going off this page, going to this other page, and then ultimately converting on this third page? If you're seeing things like that, you can learn from that data and re-optimize your campaigns for conversion. You can decide to maybe send them to that more generic page to begin with, or maybe send them to that ending page that they're getting to and finally converting on. But there's lots more data that you can unlock there and be data driven to optimize that strategy once it's running.
That's great.
Awesome.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, after going through all that process, right, thinking about, what ad platform you're using, preparing to set up your ads, by making sure you have the landing pages with forms and content offers, you've set up things technically, you've got the integrations connected the right way. Now you want to be able to measure, right, the success of those ads. And some of this can be dependent, right, on what I mentioned earlier is actually using the HubSpot platform the right way. So if there's data that you can rely on from, all the way from the attribution channels of people coming from Google, coming from Facebook, all the way through to your deal pipeline and being able to have a clear sales process and marking of, leads becoming sales qualified leads to becoming customers. Um, if you have that full picture within your HubSpot CRM and you're running paid advertising, you can really measure the success down, you know, directly to the ROI of what's actually the dollar spent to what you're getting in return for it. So, I mean, ultimately, what's important to measure is, are your ads generating relevant traffic to your website? Are they bringing you new leads, and are you bringing your current audience back to the site if retargeting is part of what you're looking to do? And so, at the end of the day, everybody wants to be able to report back and say, I spent this much money and I got this back in return for it, so that it's worth the investment that I'm doing. And obviously paid ads is one that's a little bit more direct of that, like spend dollars versus what you're getting in return. So kind of following some of these steps and making sure that you're using all those tools that are available to you guys, is going to be able to help you, fully see the ROI on that.
All right, so then we're going to just get into a couple specific areas within the HubSpot platform where you can actually look at this success.
Awesome. So if you guys are in your HubSpot, if you're in the HubSpot tool, and you guys are on like the main interface, if you go to marketing and ads and you have the integration already connected, you'll see this page, right? And this is just great information. I like to tell our team that, when it comes to like monitoring and just seeing how things are performing, you don't necessarily always have to go into the Google Ads platform to look at things. You can see a lot of information directly right here, from the impressions to the conversions to clicks to contacts to customers created, down to the influence from each campaign created, to the ads that are generating it, to the keywords that are creating it. So you can get really granular into the data that you want to see here. But really, like just from this platform, being able to manage and understand, to the point that I made earlier, where I think HubSpot is the most valuable is really being able to see that full picture, reporting of, the impressions you're getting from the ads, the clicks, the contacts down to the customers. And to the further point is, if you have things set up the right way, being able to see, all right, based on the amount spent, what's my ROI in return based on, the information that is in my pipeline, and the deals that are being closed on that end. So yeah, just being able to really monitor your ad performance, and not having to go swap in from Google's platform over to HubSpot, really being able to do most of what you'd want to do as far as, an ad manager right in that tool alone.
Awesome. I just want to call out a couple of things that we can just see in this screenshot here too. So up at the top where you're starting to see like accounts, date range, and attribution reports there, you'll see that it says first form submission. This is one of my favorite things to look at, especially if you're doing a retargeting campaign, because when it comes to retargeting, while you may have some contacts that are part of your audience that have been on your website before and never converted, so their first conversion when they come back from a retargeting ad will be their first time converting and filling out a form on your site. But you also have the ability to click on that first form submission there, and it drops down to a drop down menu where you can look at all conversions and you can also look at reconversions. So, again, if you're running a retargeting campaign where you're not only wanting to see who are you bringing back who's already a contact in your database, but then who are you bringing back as net new contacts that are finally converting, it's important to look at those because that gives you the more complete picture of the objective of your campaign and the success of that campaign as well. Um, Another thing I want to point out is when you're seeing, you've got your impressions, your clicks, your contacts, and your customers there, and then you've got that chart below it where it says manage columns, HubSpot did recently add something where you can not only look at the clicks, but you can look at the sessions, which I think that's really important because clicks don't always equate equally to sessions, right? Like you may have multiple clicks by one user that then only result in one session. So again, just getting more of that breakdown of what are the ad metrics we should be looking at and what really applies to how people have engaged with my ads versus what is truly being represented as traffic and leads generated to my site. Alrighty. So then moving on from there, of course, if we really want to understand how our ads are performing and playing a role in our overall site traffic, then you can go to that main traffic analytics report that you can find up in your top menu under reports and then traffic analytics reports from there. And that's really going to help you figure out, like I said, how are your ads contributing to your overall site traffic and then lead gen. So again, you can see all the different sources there that we see traffic, and then you can see paid searches, of course, representing the Google ad side of things, and paid social represents the Facebook side of things. And if you scroll down, you could then, of course, look at, what's the lead gen impact of these sources? What's the conversion rate? Am I converting at a healthy rate between 2 to 3%, like I may be from all my other sources? Lots of different metrics you can break down there. And then same thing, if we're talking about having a specific page that we're sending our traffic to, that we're hoping people to either view initially from those paid campaigns or convert directly on from those campaigns, what does it look like for that specific page? Are we achieving our goal, or we're getting all of the traffic and the lead gen on that page that we expected? Or are we getting the traffic, but not necessarily the lead gen for that specific page, but we're seeing our leads converting elsewhere? Just keeping an eye on that and then making those optimizations after your ads have been live for a little while. Kind of to further that point, a lot of people wonder, when should I be making my changes, especially when I have access to this much data? Should I be reactive after the first week or 2 weeks when I'm seeing traffic and maybe not some conversions? The answer to that is no. You want to wait at least 30 days. You want to give that first month of whatever you've set up and established, you want to give it time to run. You want to give either the Google or the Facebook algorithms time to learn and make some of their optimizations for themselves. And then from there, that's when you want to decide, based on my budget I'm spending, is it a budgeting issue where maybe I just need to spend more to get more of that traffic, to have the chance to get more of those leads? Or is it time to truly make some of those optimizations and, make some robust changes to my campaigns in the ad side, make some changes on my site side so that my conversion rate optimization is established properly? Those are just some different things that you can evaluate when you get to probably that 30-day mark after your ads have been running. Alrighty. And now it's time for questions. So any question you guys have related to HubSpot and ads, related to the ad platforms themselves, or maybe your strategy or challenges you've come across, we would love to address some of those now.
We should have the Jeopardy theme song going, I think. Just like
Yeah. Rather than the silence. We're here for any questions, guys. So please, if you've got some general HubSpot questions, ultimately we can probably answer those too. So feel free. Hey, Annie.
Hey, Annie, how's it going? She said, I'd like to know a little bit about the setup. So are you looking for more of like getting it connected? Oh. The best advice for advertisement or for running ads. I think starting small is always a good strategy. I know we talked a little bit about that. Um, Typically, I think some people like to start small and they always kind of start with branded ads. Like they always are like, I'm just going to create ads that are tied to my brand or tied to, or they try to go to like for the highest, um, for the most competitive like search terms or something like that. I think finding like a lane for something that's like maybe a part of your business that you're really trying to grow, or something that you are really just wanting to get more attraction from, and really understanding the full funnel of what marketing assets you have built in place, and start with a small budget, start with a small location of like where you're looking to run ads to, and then just give it some time and kind of learn from it and grow from there. I think ultimately finding, figuring out what works specifically for your business and your industry and attached to those goals. I think that that can really help you, set you apart and um, teach you where, at least give you information about where you want to head.
Yeah, and I would say, our favorite place to have people start on that kind of topic of starting small is on the Google search ad side. So again, if you are in an industry where your sales process is set up in such a way where you are going to be getting that inbound traffic generally, but it's not quite there for you yet, you want to supplement that traffic with ads, then starting with search ads, starting small on one singular topic, one geographic region, and then building out from there, learning from there, is really the best place to start. Because again, Google is a really common platform and it applies to both B2B and B2C, right? Like Facebook is very B2C. So starting small on the Google search ad side is really the best place to start.
Yeah, and I see the question of like what budget do you recommend for a slow small start? It really depends. That can really vary, depending on the industry, depending on the competition for those like search terms. We worked with clients where there really wasn't worth running ads to even a specific keyword if you weren't spending less than like $4,000 a month or something. But then there's others where it's not so competitive, um, where you know for like a small location, you may want to run at like, 400, $500 a month, and just test it on like one campaign. Again, like the bigger the more campaigns you run or the more ad sets you have, like the more expensive it becomes. So just remember, if you are starting with a small budget, start with one campaign with one targeted ad group, like really keep it, maybe even like a small targeted geography where you're going to be want your ads to be displayed. So I think just like focusing on like a smaller micro market than going national with $500 budget essentially.
Yeah, and one thing we can do too, again, as digital marketers that likely wear multiple hats, if you use an SEO tool like Moz, SEMrush, Ahrefs, all those different platforms, and you have done competitor analysis or topic analysis on the SEO side, you can apply that into what you're trying to do on the ad side as well to get an idea of what is the competitiveness of these keywords, what's the volume of these keywords, because that'll then help you understand if it's a really high competitive keyword, if it's also a really highly searched keyword, then $500 a month is probably not going to cut it. You're probably to break into that ceiling there where you probably have other competitors both locally and nationally also bidding on those keywords. That's probably going to tell you pretty quickly that you're going to need to start a little higher on your budget, and then from there, once you truly launch those ads, you'll learn even more.
Mhm. I see the question from Megan. How often do you add negative keywords to an account? It's a good question. I think it really depends on like the way that you're running your search ads too. We were just talking about this yesterday actually, with Kara. Is the way that I run ads is really I my bid type. I really like to start with just broad search, which typically what ends up happening is it's a wider range of search terms that could be where our ad could be showing up for them, which leaves room for error, right? You'll see our ad being displayed for search terms that aren't super relevant to our client or to ourselves, like as far as like the traffic we're trying to attract to the website. And so being able to monitor that and see what search terms are actually coming through and then making that judgment call to create negatives around that specifically, it will help you kind of hone in so that your ad just isn't being displayed to anybody based on like a really like weird or small relevance of the search term that you're bidding for, but be able to create those negatives so that it kind of like builds a wall around your wide net so that you're really starting to kind of hone in on what keywords are bringing the most impact and actually generating the right leads for you. And that gets really that's really technical. It gets like really in the weeds with stuff, but um, yeah, I think just generally, that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, I think that's great. And uh, ooh, awesome. That also can make me think on the ad side of things too. One thing that we didn't touch on, but I would just love to address because it's something we hear all the time. Um, ads are really technical, but oftentimes people get caught up on what the ads look like, or maybe even some of the copy in the ads, and spend more time on that than they do on the technical side of things of doing the right research, setting their website up for success, doing the technical setup so that you have all the data, all the structure that you're looking for. And that's the wrong way to do it. You want to spend most of your time, like if I could probably say 75% of your time on the strategy and the technical setup of your ads, because if that's all done correctly, then yes, the copy is still important. If you're running more creative ads like display ads or Facebook ads, the visual side of it is important too, because that's ultimately part of the first impression and the hook of what those people you're trying to attract see. But ultimately, if you don't do the technical side correctly and you don't get it set up in such a way where you even have a chance of attracting those correct people in the first place, it doesn't really matter what your creative and your copy looks like. And so again, that's not really something that most advertisers will tell you, but from our experience, again, it's like if there's two myths that we can bust today about paid ads, it's you don't need $1 million to run your ads, and don't be too focused on the copy and creative to where you don't really give the technical side the time that deserves to really have things see success.
Yeah, it's like it's the mix of like art and science, right? It's we see this on like the content or blog creation and an SEO strategy where you can create the best piece of content, but if you're not like following the right, SEO best practices, chances are you're not going to get the right exposure to that article, right? So same thing with ads is just making sure that you're following the best practices to give yourself the best chance of exposure, and then also couple that with having really good creative assets and good ad copy to increase click through rates and stuff.
Yeah, awesome. I would say one thing too that's probably good to stray away from, just knowing that both of these platforms give you the opportunity to lean on their algorithm. And honestly, you should. You can opt not to, and you can opt to do some more custom setup yourselves. The algorithms exist for a reason. They learn, they take data into account, and that's something you want to take advantage of. So some businesses will have campaigns that are more seasonal, like they may even change month to month where there's a different thing that they want to advertise as part of those paid ad strategies. I'm not going to say that's wrong, but ultimately, if you have the budget and time, I would say have two different types of campaigns set up. Maybe one is that one that changes where you have a new offer every month as things, come up and come down. But then have something else that is more of like your steady eddy that runs in the background that's consistently running, because those campaigns where you give Google time to learn or Facebook time to learn and perform out over time, those are generally going to be your highest performing campaigns. Alrighty. Do we have any more questions at all today that we want to go through? I'm just going to go ahead and flip to this resources side because we do have some resources for you guys too. But if any more questions do come up, please let us know. Obviously, we, even as avid ad users, avid HubSpot users, still love to rely on some of the content that HubSpot provides itself. And so I've just linked a couple different knowledge based articles here related to more information on the HubSpot's ad tool product, some ad management in HubSpot, some HubSpot ad FAQs, and then of course some ad tracking in HubSpot. So in addition to everything we went over today, this will give you even more technical insight into some product walkthrough videos, some how-tos, some FAQs, just so that you really feel well prepared as you're looking at either connecting these for the first time or maybe taking a look back and seeing of what you already have established and running, can you connect things better, get better insights, all of those fun things. All righty. Well, I didn't see any other questions run in. So thank you guys so much for your time today. It was great to be able to talk on this topic and share hopefully some new information for you guys as it relates to connecting your ads to HubSpot.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Bye, guys.